Microphone check. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live. The Coffee and Biscotti Show. I'm your host, Crew Mel Bellissimo. Today is Friday, April the 15th, 12 o'clock, Eastern Daylight Savings Time. And I'm feeling fresh. I'm feeling fresh because I got a beautiful lady as our guest. And I don't know. I don't even know if she's single. I never asked. But so I don't know, gentlemen. I don't know. Maybe she's single. We'll have to find out. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you are feeling good. Today is a holiday for the Catholics. And I know that a lot of places are closed today. So I hope that you can join and stay with us as we go through a wonderful show today. Lots of things coming up, lots of things going on. I just am on the mend from my second sinus infection in a month. And it's been a rough go. It's been a rough go, my friends, but as my Jamaican friends would say, I'm in it to win it. And I'm going to win it today because I've got an awesome guest for you. Little shout out to Poutine Nation in the house. Josh Leslie, sending you my love. I'm excited, bro. Does that mean like next week on the show, we're going to be live together? Is that what's happening? Can I look forward to the live with Josh Leslie? That would be awesome. So I'm hoping that happens. I got some work to do with Mr. Josh Leslie next week. Yes, sir. We're going to do it, baby. As you can tell, I'm feeling a little better. I'm still a little bit stuffy, so if I sound like Mickey Mouse, well, I hope you like Mickey Mouse because that's what I sound like. And that's what the show's going to sound like. But I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good because the wheels are in motion. I want to give a special shout out today to my cousin, Michael Bellissimo, who is the Senior Vice President at CBRE in Toronto. I want to give a special shout out to him because he took 90 minutes of his time this week and we had an opportunity to sit down and chat a little bit about business, a little bit about my business in particular. And I feel really grateful because I'll tell you something, my friends. No matter how far down the well you are, you can always reach out to somebody, a friend, a family member, and you can chat with them. If we all would have an easier time opening up and being vulnerable, then we could do what exactly I wrote in my latest blog called Crewmel Electrician. And in this blog, I speak about the fact that when an electrician comes into your house and you say, excuse me, sir, or excuse me, ma'am, I've got a plug. When I put it in, it sparks. So the electrician comes and he undoes the plate cover and he checks to see that the wiring's okay. And then if everything's okay, he follows the line back to the fuse box. And I use this analogy of saying, well, our life and the way we're built is not much different. Our fuse box is our heart. So when there's pain, like there is a spark or a shock when you plug something into the wall, it's saying that there's a challenge there. There's a problem there. Well, when we feel pain and we feel some sort of aching of the heart, most of us fill our lives with meaningless sex and porno. We fill it with, retail therapy, food therapy by eating, junk food. How many sitcoms have had the sad person sitting on the couch eating right from the bowl of ice cream? Of course, people use drugs and alcohol. because they want to numb the pain, as opposed to following where the pain goes to the heart. And why am I feeling this pain? Why is it that what just happened, that this situation that has transpired, there's something there that's in my heart that I need to solve. But I need to follow that line back to the heart, just as the electrician follows the line back to the fuse box. What's interesting about it is that it's a perfect segue in today's show. So, want to send some love to Sandra Mio, who introduced me to our guest today. And it's funny because I had a little bit of deja vu when I saw the picture. I said, I know this girl. I've seen her before. Well, lo and behold, she went to the sister school of the Catholic boys' school that I went to when I was a kid in high school. What's interesting is that here we are 30 plus years later. I know, I can't even believe it. 30 years later? Are you serious? And what's amazing is I got to connect with this woman. And of course, she's already got my heart because her background is Jamaican. And I just got a love for Jamaican people. All my Jamaican friends said, I was a Jamaican in another lifetime. You can guarantee it. I was somewhere with my dreads roaming the island. But what's interesting about today and our guest today is that she's had a number of transitions in her life. And she took a situation that was difficult. And she ended up in the moments of her greatest weakness, finding her greatest strengths. I love the story because that's what this show is about. Don't you see why everybody needs to watch this show? Because this is about the knowing that the world is in a toilet. But what we don't understand is that it's in a toilet because we have to put a flashlight on all the darkness that exists on the planet so that we can make the changes. That's how this works. This is how the light works. The analogy is that if you're in a dark room and you can't see your hand in front of your face, the minute that I flip on a flashlight, what I see is the darkness in the corners. And that's how the light works. So what we're doing is we're shining light on all the darkness in the world. And so my part was to be part of the solution. And of course, with the help of Mr. Josh Leslie, here we are. A year and a little bit later, 50 shows later. And what a way to do that, especially, of course, because, last week I took a break. I needed it. And my guest today is just an inspiring woman. You can feel her energy. I could feel her energy just by talking to her on the phone. This girl is lit up, let me tell you. She's done so many wonderful things. And I love the fact that she pays homage to her culture and to her background. So I'm not going to tell you about her. I'm going to let her tell you about her. Because the story is worth you tuning in. So ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are in the world, I want you to get off of your comfortable seat and put your hands together for the beautiful goddess, Necole Hines.
Hey, well, hello,
And the crowd
everybody.
goes wild.
Thank you for
Hi, Necole.
wonderful introduction. Hey,
Huh?
everybody.
What happened? Now I can't hear you.
Oh, can you not hear me now? Ooh.
Somebody sucked their teeth.
Oh, shoot.
Did I do that good?
Hold on.
Sure, I did. I've been around Jamaicans my whole life.
Uh,
Come on, Necole. We got to get this fixed up, girl.
Hold on.
It
Uh,
was working, guys.
it was
Josh, I promise
working.
you,
It
we
was.
can hear you both. Huh?
Yeah. So
How
you
come
can.
I
Oh,
can't hear
you
her?
guys can hear me. Okay, good.
Wait,
Because I'm
wait,
like,
wait. Wait. Hello, 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 hello.
yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear
Hey,
me?
something happened.
Hey, right on, right on.
Right on.
Well,
Welcome,
thank you so much.
Necole.
Well, thank you. Hey, 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 Mel. Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. I'm happy to be here.
That's great. I'm really happy to have you. And I want to welcome our dear friend Sandra Mio, who's in the chat.
Yay. Hey, Sandra.
I love it.
On.
Necole, I have to say that I'm really grateful because here's the interesting part. I love this story because I remember being a kid and sneaking out to roll a joint and smoking a joint, and we were like, "Hey man, is anybody looking? Is anybody looking? Is anybody looking?" And
Yeah.
to be honest with you, I smoked for many years, and of course now I haven't smoked in a long time. But
Mhm.
what I love about it is that I kind of joked about it and said, "Wow, when it was illegal, we were all walking around going, hey man,' but now we're like it's legal,
Yep.
and you could literally walk down the street with a little a little blunt in your mouth, and you could walk down the street no problem."
I do that every day where I live.
And so I guess that I start off with that story just because you have an incredible story about how herbs, including the marijuana plant, helped you get back to health. I put it in my post how you nurtured yourself back to health using herbs and in particular the marijuana plant.
Absolutely.
And but before we get there, because I mean, I certainly want to spend some time because I'm fascinated. I
Yes.
am totally fascinated by your story. Really, I am. Because um, I love how you've become so open about it. And not only become open about it, but are doing some really powerful things. I know that before we got on, you talked about, having a Jamaican patty sort
Work.
of workshop where you get to
Yeah.
learn. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Josh, Josh, we need to hang out with Necole and go for a Jamaican patty and put it in the cold cut bread.
Oh my goodness. And just segue, I did an infusion of the patty, but I actually infused it more with CBD. So it was like a CBD patty as opposed to a THC. You know what I mean? So yeah, lots of fun.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
listen, Necole, I got to tell you, we need to know more about this woman. We need to know about this amazing woman, Necole. So here's how I always like to start the show. Necole, I always like to start by saying, can you please paint us a picture? Paint us a picture of who this amazing woman really is.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, there's so many things to say, but I could first start off and say that I am a mother. I'm actually a mother to three sons. And so that was a huge portion of my life. I became a mom and was with my now ex-husband from the age of 20 is when I became a mom, turning 21. And I was with my ex-husband from about 18. And so I have a 26-year-old, I have a 24-year-old, and I have a 19-year-old who will be like 20 in July. So
Oh my God.
yeah, all boys. So that was a huge portion of my life. I'm Toronto born and raised. Big up to the
The
416.
416. Blah, blah.
So that's kind of what I was like. That's
Nice.
where I'm from. First gen Canadian, but my parents are Jamaican. So being raised by immigrant parents, especially during my time, it's like the influence of food was really your cultural background back in the day, right? Like my parents didn't kind of become North American, so to speak, for a while. So a lot of the introduction to food was Jamaican food, Caribbean food. So that is like a part. I say that because that is a part of the story, right? So the fact that food really kind of got fused and meshed throughout my life, and I always clinged to that Caribbean, Jamaican kind of heritage with that. So back to being a mom of three sons. Okay. So a mom of three sons, it was a lot of amazing fun. They weren't raised in Ontario, actually. They were raised in Calgary, Alberta. So I spent 13 years in Calgary, and the time in Calgary was really where a lot of things happened for me and a lot of changes happened to me. And that's when I started to really take control of my life, really, right? So, and the reason why I was able to do that in Calgary is because when I moved back then, it was during the oil boom. And so we're living in a city where people were generally like in good spirits. You know, when people are making money, they like to spend it. They're kind of all happy. And one of the things about Calgary, yes, it's really conservative, but it also is really supportive of entrepreneurs. So throughout my employment sort of career, I got really excited about entrepreneurship. And the reason why I got excited about entrepreneurship is because I would work for companies, and although there was opportunities to move and things like that, I had lots of opportunities in many cases to kind of move up and get different roles. There were times that I worked in at companies where there was a lot of promises given, but the results weren't really, they weren't really giving me the results. So they'll promise you with like, oh, we'll create this role for you, or we'll do da 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 da, but then it doesn't actually come to fruition.
Right.
So that's where I started to be like, well, if I want to do something, I'm going to create the space. If I want to do something, I'm going to just do it, right? And that something just, it could possibly be because I'm a Gemini and I like to do a lot of things and all. I'm not quite sure, but something in me.
Gemini represent.
Hey, I'm just saying, not that the other signs aren't the greatest, but Geminis, you know how we do. Like we just get really excited about stuff and then we just go with it. And sometimes we go with a lot of things. Sometimes that's that's the hard part of like deciphering which of the things that I should settle on. But Calgary is a place that the community really supports your endeavors, right? I always say to a lot of people that you can be a big fish in a little pond when you live in Calgary. So I worked in a lot of really cool industries. I started off in banking, which wasn't really exciting when I moved out to Calgary. And then from banking, I went into wealth management. So that was interesting because all of our clients had a net worth of $1 million or more. So you kind of got to see that side of things. But I wasn't satisfied when I was working there. And so I really felt that I needed to be in a creative environment. So I Googled, no word of a lie, creative jobs in Calgary. And this company popped up, which was called Veer, and it's a stock photography company. And then that's how I kind of shifted my workflow into more creativity. And that's when I started to feel a little bit better. So I worked for this company for a little bit, and sadly, it got taken over by another company and a bunch of it laid off. So in that short time that I was laid off, I still wanted to maintain that creative kind of, you know, work life type thing. And so I got into working for a lifestyle magazine called Avenue, Calgary. And that was really cool because that magazine was a free magazine that was really like, it was funded by the advertisers. And a lot of the advertisers were restaurants and real estate. So as a person who worked for that company, because a lot of the restaurants were the, you know, our major kind of bread and butter, so to speak, they would pay in cash and contra, which meant a lot of times we got to eat at beautiful restaurants in the city. And that was really amazing. So that kind of got my, that's why I brought that food up at the beginning, because that's where it awakened the foodie in me again. So during that time, I really got to eat at a lot of amazing places. And it was the same thing that happened at that company where there was a lot of like promises to kind of create these roles that didn't actually transpire. So I did something on my own and decided to venture out and start my own business. It was at that time called Wings and Tings, and I did Jamaican wings, jerk wings. I did all different flavors from like honey jerk, sweet chili jerk, barbecue jerk, like literally 8 or 9 different flavors. I had made patties, salads, all of the things. And I had a permanent booth in an indoor farmers market year round. So that was kind of my thing. Like I really enjoyed it. I did like, catering for the green room at Calgary Reggae Fest. I was like a vendor at those festivals doing Taste of Calgary, all of this fun stuff. And I thought that Wings and Tings was going to be like the end all be all for me, because I was literally starting to try to see if I could get my frozen jerk wings into retail and get it into grocery stores, and working with different programs to kind of get the funding to kind of help that happen. And then I had a car accident. And so the car accident happened about 7 years ago. Yeah, it'll be next month. It'll be about 7 years. And the accident was kind of like a freak accident type of thing. I was on my way to my business on a Sunday morning, driving along Memorial Drive, for those who know Calgary, Alberta. And so it was Sunday morning, 8 a.m. Nobody's on the road, just me. And just to paint a picture as to where I am and what type of roadway this is, it's like a dual roadway and a bike path, and then the river. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at. I'm, driving, mind my own business, listening to CBC radio, and this guy is coming the opposite direction, flies over the meridian 120 feet, hits me head on at 95 kilometers per hour.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So I saw it coming. It was like a movie. I saw it coming, and I just kind of had to take it, because that's why I painted the picture of the bike path and the river. It's like if you swerved, I mean, you literally could either harm somebody else or yourself. You could be in the river yourself, so to speak. So I kind of just took it, and then that was the catalyst for where I am today. Because after that accident, I believe that it happened to, number one, I was really working too hard. I feel like I was just doing a lot of things. Plus, that's why I started off with being a mom.
Mom, of course, exactly.
Like there was just so much stuff on the go. And I felt like it was one of those things to be like, you need to slow down, and you need to also figure out if Calgary really is the place for you to plant your seeds for, another decade or two or whatever, right? So that's it. So that's where I had to start thinking about that. And I realized that as I was going through the process of healing, is that I couldn't physically work in the same way that I used to. And there's benefits to being like a one-person show, but then there's not, because when you're a one-woman, person show, whatever, like I didn't teach anybody how to make all the recipes the way that I did it. I didn't, up until the accident, I didn't have, somebody who was like training with me and whatever, just in case, and all of that. So it was at the time of the accident is when I'm trying to see if I can get people to help. And it was really hard to do all of those things, plus trying to heal at the same time. So
okay, sorry, Necole, I got to ask you this, because first of all, I think that the entrepreneurial thing is something that as entrepreneurs we all go through.
Yes.
That we work in the business, not on the business.
Absolutely.
Right. But I don't want to revisit the accident, but I just want to say, so what happened to you at the accident?
Oh, so at the accident, I honestly got just soft tissue injuries. So that was how I kind of walked away with it. His car
95 kilometers an hour, and girl, there was somebody watching you.
There was. Yes, there was. My mom was watching from above. Like like definitely I was protected, because like it was on Twitter. Like his car was like, and when I say his car caught on fire, it was like it was a scene. It was a movie scene. And for me, it was a movie scene for sure. And so, but my injuries were, I didn't have anything broken. I didn't have, you know what I mean? I wasn't in the hospital for X number of weeks or months or things of that nature. Like I was able to go home, but I just wasn't able to work in the way. And because I'm an entrepreneur too, it's different. If I was an employee, you have your time off, you get your, you know what I mean?
Long-term disability.
Yeah. Exactly. But when you're like doing it all yourself, I had to even return earlier than I would have if I was working in another environment,
I
right?
feel you there.
Right. So I love this because now it's going to segue into my decision as to how I was going to treat the pain. Because in the very beginning, the pain was so excruciating, right? And I didn't really want to do like pharmaceuticals. It wasn't really a huge offer for me, but um, I didn't want to do more than T3s and whatever. Like, there's so many like side effects of things like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to be constipated, whatever, right? Like, I just didn't want to be on that
Yeah,
stuff.
OxyContin and
Exactly,
all the rest of them, of course.
absolutely. And then so even though I didn't choose like some heavy stuff, the pain was still like I couldn't go throughout the day without something. So I was starting to take things like Motrin over the counter, right? But I was taking so much Motrin that I was getting stomach issues. So then
Yeah.
I had to go to the doctor and get a pill to counteract the pill that I was taking. And then that's when it just didn't make any sense. And so then I started to think about, oh, but what about the beautiful plant that I have enjoyed throughout my life for, you know what I mean? Like now 25 plus years, but back then, maybe like 15 years, whatever. What about that plant? And then there was a lot of talk about like the recreational market was going to be happening in the next few years, and then realizing that Canada had an active um, medical patient program since like I think 2001. So living in Alberta at the time, although my doctor wasn't a huge supporter of like writing me a prescription, there were clinics in the city that had an actual physician that would do that for you. So I was able to get a prescription, and I was able to get like medical grade cannabis that was delivered to my door, and that was really helpful from the beginning. And that's when I realized like, wow, like I have so much help. Number one, like I had no stomach issues. Like I'm not feeling groggy or anything like that. I understand plants, so it worked with me because I'm familiar with it. And yeah, it was just really super effective. So since it was so effective and helpful for me, and knowing that it was going to become legal on the sort of adult use spectrum, I decided that I wanted to get involved in the industry somehow, and knew that it couldn't be or wouldn't be in Calgary at the time. Like I didn't. Calgary has just I mean, Calgary's different now, but at the time when I was living there, it was more like a distillery, like more drinking culture. So like huge distillery community out there. They've got amazing craft beers and stuff like that, but it wasn't really like a plant-based kind of environment type thing. So I felt like I was going to go to the Mecca, which was Vancouver, BC. So that's what I did.
The
Sure.
Mecca to get the maca.
Absolutely. So that's what I did. I ended up moving to Vancouver probably about a year or so after the accident, I think, maybe two, and moved to Vancouver. And after 6 months living there, I got into the industry. And that's when I got to learn so much more about the plant. Because when you were talking about like back in the day, like being in high school, you know what I mean, smoking the joint and like not want whatever, like that's kind of what I associated cannabis to be, is just that sort of that's all it does, like, you know what I mean. But then you realize like, oh wow, like I'm working in this dispensary, and it was a medical dispensary at the time. And so you have people coming in and they were purchasing suppositories because they were, had cancer, they were battling cancer. You had veterinarians that were telling their clients to bring, come and get CBD for their dogs who were like, you know what I mean, suffering from cancer and all sorts of things. And then you'd have like actual testimonials of people saying that how much the plant has helped them, how much like a Rick Simpson oil has helped them, how much all of these forms of the plant has helped them. And I guess what I loved about seeing the plant in its different way is I realized how versatile it is. I call it like the cauliflower of herbs, because you can do so many things with it. Like
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
do so many things. Like when I saw that, wow, suppositories, you can have patches. Like people can just put a patch on their arm and it releases into their system. You can, of course, drink lemonade or eat. Everybody knows about eating a brownie or a cookie, but you can have capsules, like there's oils, like there's just so many different ways. It's not just smoking a joint. And that's what really got me excited about the plant, and learning more about it. And at that first dispensary that I worked at, it was the second oldest dispensary in the city. I had coworkers that had worked there from the beginning. So they had been in the industry for 10 years already. And so I'm working with people that had, you know what I mean? Like a decade of knowledge, which was just I literally would sit sometimes and just like, have a little notebook and like take notes and stuff like that from people and understand that different cultivars strains can do different things for different people, and just made me understand the plant.
Necole, can you like give an example of some of the things, like for example, one of the things that for me that I was fascinated with is that when we were smoking joints, we didn't ask, oh, is that a sativa or is that an indica? It was like, what?
Yeah.
Is this Jamaican or is this hydro? That's what we used to say back in the day. Is this Jamaican cess or is this hydro? And if it was hydro, it means it was hydroponically grown with lights and all the other stuff. But my point is that what other things outside of sort of, the standard stuff did you really take from? Like, could you provide an example?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's CBD is one of them, right? Like, so CBD, like I didn't know about CBD until working in the industry. All I knew was that THC, THC, THC. I didn't realize that the plant has like 100 different cannabinoids. THC is just one of them. THC is the most popular one, but there are hundreds of them. If not, there's probably like 1,000, but because of prohibition, therefore there's lack of funding to do research, right? So right now we're just starting to do the research to see more. So CBD is one of the cannabinoids that's really exciting because it helps with inflammation. It's not usually psychoactive for people, so people can sort of utilize it. It can help with a lot of different things. It helps with anxiety for people. Many people have felt that. For me, CBD has helped me with pain in addition to THC. The thing about CBD though is like when people take it, like you don't notice anything until you stop taking it. And then when you stop taking it, that's when people realize like, oh, I'm anxious all of a sudden. And then they realize like, oh, CBD actually helped for that. So it's one of those like undercover things. It's like
So subtle.
Yeah, it's very subtle. THC, it's like the minute you consume, it's in it to win it, right? Whereas
I want to get high.
right?
Yeah,
and CBD is the one where it is gentler. It's really helpful for especially like the elderly, people who are getting arthritis and things of that nature where like, THC could be a little bit too much, but the CBD has been really, really helpful. So that's one of the major things that I realized that was helpful. And then there's another cannabinoid that they're starting to do some research, and it's called CBN. And CBN has been known to really be helpful with encouraging or facilitating sleep. So for people who are having sleep issues, if they purchase, let's say, an oil that the cannabinoid is high in CBN, a lot of people have found that has been helpful for sleep, and then they're waking up feeling still quite refreshed. And I think that's one of the beauties about this plant, because I still enjoy a beer, I still enjoy a good wine. Are you kidding me? But the thing about alcohol, of course, as we know, is the more that we consume it, the more that we feel it the next day, especially when we're aging. Whereas I don't have that same, feeling when I wake up. I literally wake up feeling like, it's sunny every day, even though I'm in Vancouver, most of the days are gray, and that's okay. But I feel like it's sunshine because the THC kind of helps me with that. The sad thing about the industry, though, is that educators and cannabis companies, cannabis entrepreneurs, our hands are tied right now in the things that we can say that are beneficial about the plant. So
because there's regulations as to what it can help.
Yeah,
what you can say it helps.
Yeah, they say we're just not allowed to talk about it in the way they don't like. Part of legalization has been wonderful, and part of it sometimes frustrating because yes, it's legal, but then you go into a dispensary and a bud tender is not allowed to say that this strain is going to help you with sleep. Like, they're not allowed to say that.
Hold on a second. Listen, I want to say, you just said something to me and it just blew my mind.
Yeah.
Because I've never even walked into a dispensary. Did
Oh,
you
yeah.
just call him the bud tender?
Yeah, that's what they're called. Yeah.
Oh my
That's what
God.
they're called. Oh my gosh, it's so interesting because I forget. I'm around cannabis people all the time, so I'll like throw out all this lingo as
The bud
though
tender.
like they're called.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm sorry. My ignorance is that I've never been into one. I've got them all around here. I'm in Ottawa. There's still
Yeah.
a ton out here.
Yeah.
And I've never I don't smoke. I
Yeah.
never been in, but I mean that's amazing. Bud
Yeah.
tender. Okay, sorry. I love it.
Yeah,
Go.
no worries at all. No worries at all. But yeah, unfortunately, we have to be creative with how we say things, and how I like to speak is to talk about my own experience.
Right.
So, and to say that I can say that, well, for me, this has worked for me. And I should also preface that the reason why I like to talk about my own personal experience is because the plant actually affects everybody differently. Even though, like, they say indica, sativa, like, in reality, indica and sativa was really meant to refer to how the plant was being grown, as opposed to like the effects of it, right? Like,
Or the strain of it.
are tall and skinny, and indicas are short and bushy. Like, that's how they grow. And so that's why sometimes you can have a sativa that's sedating, and sometimes you can have an indica that's energizing. But in order to regulate an industry, people need labels and boxes and things like that to, you know,
Yeah,
people.
because what I was told was that if you had a sativa, that was the energy one. So if I was going to have it, I said, well, it's got to be one that gives me. I don't want to be like, hey man, like I'm not. That's not my thing. I like high energy,
Yeah.
But you're saying that there could be a sativa that actually is relaxing, so it has
Absolutely.
nothing to
Like a
do
haze,
with.
exactly. Like a lot of the hazes that are out there, any of the strains that have haze at the end of them, a lot of them are sativas, but they're also sedating at the same time too, right? And then because we all have like, we're all literally as individuals wired with an endocannabinoid system. And remember, I said, like, the cannabis plant has like, what, 100 or so cannabinoids. So our body is actually wired to interact with the cannabis plant, but we all interact with it differently.
Sorry to interrupt, Nicole, but
Yeah.
what I love about that is, we talk about the difference between alcohol and, why drink and drive when you can smoke and fly? Like that was the line.
Yeah.
But the idea behind it is that I've always kind of felt that it's interesting how during Prohibition, alcohol was illegal,
Right.
and then it
Here we
changed.
are. Yeah.
It changed. And I always joked because what wasn't funny to me at the time was we're just coming out of this, or we're still involved in a pandemic. We still have COVID, and the coronavirus is still going. I just got a message that somebody that I was with now just has COVID, but the liquor stores were open because that's an essential service.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about alcohol. I've always been told that, even in the books that I've read, that alcohol was never to be ingested because the body just is not designed to ingest alcohol. But now you're talking about what did you call it?
Endocannabinoid system.
An endocannabinoid system within the body, which allows us to interact with the plant.
Yeah. And now that it's legal, more studies about that. And then what happens to happen, obviously, is that the medical community, who has also kind of been brainwashed from all the propaganda and blah, 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 they have to shift themselves and realize that there is a place for big pharma. There's a lot of things that big pharma does that is really beneficial, but there's a lot of things that plant medicine, not just cannabis, but other plants as well, can do to help us like heal ourselves
Right.
or maintain healthiness. Like I'm taking a herbal medicine course right now at the School of Gaia, the Healing School of Gaia, and I am drinking burdock root for like 3-4 days, kind of like getting connected with this root. I brew these teas, and then as I'm studying about burdock root, you find out that it helps with acne, eczema, psoriasis, like all this stuff. And I'm like, why wouldn't we just as people like why wouldn't our doctors just tell us this stuff? Like why wouldn't we know about like all exactly.
The dollar bill, yo.
Exactly.
Of course.
And that's the same thing that happened with the plant, right? Because if the plant can help so many people with cancer as opposed to going through chemo and radiation, you know what I mean? Then the chemo and radiation folks are not going to be making all the money that they've been, you know what I mean? So it's going to take a while for the shift. And I think that the medical community has to like start to listen and start to do some more research and realize that I think that there's room for both. I think that there's room for herbal medicine with pharmaceuticals too, because there are some things that pharma has been able to really assist with that has been super helpful. Even for me, like the cannabis plant doesn't help with everything. That's why I'm studying other herbal plants. And it's other things that I do, like ensuring that you are active. You know what I mean? Like that is part of like I've gotten back into doing yoga, which is helpful for my body. So it's not that the plant was the only thing that I used to help with the healing. It was like a collection of things that I did, and the plant happened to be one of those things. Because I will say to people that when you take the plant for pain, it doesn't make the pain go away. Like you still feel the pain, it's just more numb. Like it's more like tolerable, like you can still have a good quality, life. But what I like about that is that it makes me aware not to overexert myself. And what I've heard from people who take like opioids and stuff like that is that it erases the pain completely, so that somebody's doing something ridiculous and then now their back's out again and now they need more. You know what I mean? And then now it's like a constant long relationship with pills, whereas for me, I'm understanding like I still feel sore in certain areas, so I'm not going to do too much there. I'm going to ease off on there. But I'm able to have like a good quality of life. Like it's so tolerable. Like you just don't really notice it, but you still notice it, if that makes sense. So.
I love that. And I love that you brought that up. This is so great because, and I need the people in the chat to help me because the name slipped me. But I remember going to the doctor and getting a needle in my shoulder, which was a steroid.
Right.
I'm trying to find the name of the steroid. I don't know why it escapes me now. I've had it so many times, but it's a steroidal shot that they give you. And
cortisone thing or whatever, is that what it's called?
Say that again?
Cortisone?
Cortisone shot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's a cortisone shot.
Yeah.
So I remember, and I've had several of them
Mm-hmm.
In different places. So my elbow, my shoulder, 25 years of martial arts, this is what happens.
Right.
So I get this shot, and all of a sudden, the next day, man, holy smokes, I feel great. I mean, I could just feel my shoulder like, wow, I haven't felt that good. You know what ends up happening? You end up pushing yourself, and you end up damaging it further.
That part. And then there you're back again. And here you are for this long relationship with the pill or the shot or you know what I mean, or whatever, right? And so this is the beauty of the plant, right? Like I tend to use it intuitively now, right? Like I do consume every day, like I'm an everyday consumer, but I consume in different ways. And I also want to remind people that like cannabis doesn't have to be ingested. There's so many salves and topicals and creams that people can use, especially when I was referring to like the elderly with arthritis. Like, yes, you can take an oral oil, but you can put that same oil and make your own little salve. And then they just have to rub it on their body. Like, how
Well,
magical of a plant is that? Like, it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like,
Necole, we got to talk
right? Like,
because I have an 86-year-old mom who is living here now in Ottawa in a retirement home,
okay.
and she's never ate for 84 years, never ate any meals by herself.
Oh,
Last year, her husband, my father, dies right after their 65th anniversary,
oh,
wedding anniversary.
oh,
And my mother has never been the same since.
right, of course.
And she's just struggling with sleep, with pain. So she suffers. So here's what I want to talk about. And this is something that we can certainly talk after the show. But the idea is that does the plant have a direct impact with the nervous system? Because where she suffers is her nervous system is shot.
Yeah, you know what? It has helped a lot of people in that very way. And my recommendation for like an elderly person who has never been introduced, obviously CBD is one of the first ways, but not to forget that it can be consumed in like a tea, right? Like you can just brew a tea or have a tea or a coffee and just add some drops of the oil. It doesn't have to be done in a way that's not comfortable for you. I think one of the problems and one of the reasons why cannabis gets such a bad rep so much is the smoking aspect of it. I personally love to smoke, period, right? And I used to be a cigarette smoker, and now it's like, oh, this is so much better to be smoking this than to be smoking all the toxins in a cigarette, right? So for me, and I can also smoke like CBD flower. So meaning like very little traces of THC, and I can just be smoking CBD and just living my best life. But a lot of people don't want to align with smoking. So I always like to remind people that there are so many ways, from the topicals, just rubbing a little bit on in areas, to having a tea, to sometimes having that little gummy or whatever is like just enough for somebody, an older person to be like, okay, I'm just gonna have my little gummy, and then they're fine. They go to sleep, no problem, right?
Hmm.
So I say that, like, introduce the plant in a way that's comfortable, that person is going to be comfortable consuming, rather than
Right.
to introduce it in a way that you would feel comfortable, right? Because it's not about you, it's about that person. If that person loves to drink coffee, throw some oil, you know what I mean? Like, if they have a little oil in their coffee, they're doing a ritual that they're normal, so they can receive it openly.
But Nicole, are all these products that you're talking about, all of them now are available
Yeah,
across the country?
or in your dispensary with your bud tenders behind the.
With your bud tenders.
Yes, you can go. I literally have lip balm I just put on some lip balm that's CBD that I got in a dispensary. You can get all your lotions, you can get bath bombs, you can get bath salts, all sorts of things. It doesn't have to be teas. They have tea bags now, so you can actually just buy the pack of tea bags and go to town with it. And then you can also get, the beauty about the legal market now is that any of the edibles that are on the market are no more, the whole package is never higher. Well, I will not say never. Let me scratch that. In most cases, it's not higher than 10 milligrams. So that means it's very low dose. And even in a package that says 10 milligrams, sometimes it has 5 pieces. So that means each gummy is only 2 milligrams, which is very, very low dose. So the idea is to really introduce THC, even CBD as well, to people in a low dose, and then you increase as you feel comfortable, right? Rather than thinking back in the day, it was all about like, how high can you get lit? And trust, I love to get up there. Okay, there's none of that. But my whole goal, like even with, I'll talk about like my business now and how I came to be now, but my whole goal with my business is to normalize the use of the plant, to make it as normal as somebody who's got a bottle of wine at the dinner table. It should be no different to see somebody having an infused beverage at the dinner table, right? Because now they sell those too. You can go to the store and you can get an infused beverage. And in fact, give me 2 seconds. I have them right here. And
There you
this,
go. See? That's what
look at
I'm
it.
talking about, a little infused beverage.
Yes. So this right now is called Sweet. It's called Sweet Justice, and this is like a infused, and it's
No
got
kidding.
a little bit of THC. So there's a lot of like the market is saturated with a lot of interesting things now, and it's not. I mean, for the diehards like myself, there's a lot of great opportunities, a lot of great products out there that are that speak to me, like a lot of good flour, good for smoking, a lot of great like pre-rolls that are out and all of that jazz and concentrates and everything. But I'm just referring to the people that are brand spanking new. There are a lot of really cool and interesting topicals and things of that nature, even down to intimacy. There's like lube that is infused. Okay. So like they
Wow.
have everything. They have everything now. And I feel like the more when I've worked in a dispensary before legalization and also during legalization. And during legalization, what I found was that the people that were coming in, the ones that were like new, they're just happy that they can sleep because they've been on sleep pills and medication or whatever before. And they're just happy that they can sleep, but then feel refreshed the next day and not feel, because some of the pills have made them feel groggy the next day or too groggy, you know what I mean? And so it's like they've been able to find things that work for them. The other thing I like to preface about this plant is that, which is not easy for people because we have been a society that has been conditioned to be told what to do. You go to the doctor says, prescribes you this, he says or she says, you're going to take it this amount per day, blah, blah, blah. Where with the cannabis journey, you kind of have to be your own advocate and you kind of have to take charge of your journey. So you have to try things out, and some things are going to work with you and some things are not. And then I always recommend people have a journal and write down how they felt, 10 minutes after they took it, an hour after, all of those things. And then once you start to curate what really works, you can live your best life. Like you are in charge of you, right? Like you know you the most, right? But we're not conditioned to really take that charge, right? Like a lot of times we're conditioned to take the, follow the lead, so to speak. Right?
Of course. Now I want to get to something, Necole, because so you have this accident at the time you're in Calgary.
Yes.
You then decide that you're going to move to Vancouver, which is before it actually became legal.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here you are, you find out that it comes legal. Now you are now a cannabis chef and educator, and the name of your company is called Faded Living.
Yes.
Talk us through a little bit about that.
Yes, absolutely. So when I started working in the dispensary before legalization, it was great. And then once legalization happened, I got a job with a large cannabis company called Aurora. So I worked for Aurora for about 2.5 years, and I kind of moved up in different departments and stuff like that. So I worked with them for a while. But as I was working with Aurora, I was also doing things on the side with the cannabis culture, because what I always have to remind Canadians is that Vancouver had its own market, which they called the gray market, for like 20 years before legalization. So you could go to Vancouver, you know what I mean, in 2015, and there were dispensaries everywhere. They paid taxes to the city, all of the things, right? Like it was a booming industry. So that's why I was able to align with people in the culture that were still doing a lot of things at the beginning of legalization. And so because of that lovely food business that I had in Calgary, which I will say, like, there was a point in my life that I thought I'm never going to do food professionally again. I thought the accident was like the sign that said, you're not going to do food ever again. This was your thing. And I realized that the sign was that you're not going to continue to do food in Calgary 24/7. That was number one. And that you're going to do food differently. You're not going to do it in the large scale that you did it before. You're going to do it in smaller. And it came to me to kind of combine the two, because there are a lot of Calgarians that live in Vancouver, and they would bump into me. And so when they would bump into me, like at a festival or whatever, they're like, Necole, when are you doing food? And then that's how I decided to put both my loves together, which is the food and the plant, and do some events. So I would do cooking with cannabis workshops with the culture. I would do, infused dinner parties, things of that nature while I was working for Aurora. And then I stayed with them for a long time until I decided to venture out and start Faded Living because I was getting a lot of recognition. Speaking at cannabis panels, doing cooking demos, just a lot of sort of hype, so to speak. So I felt like I wanted to devote my time to Faded Living. So when it started January of 2021, my goal was to normalize it through food, conversation, and events. And I felt like food was a way that is not threatening. People tend to like food. So I wanted to kind of show people that you can actually cook with it and create savory dishes, because a lot of people associate eating cannabis to edibles and sweet stuff all the time. They don't actually realize that you can make, infused curry goat and rice and peas. You can make, you know what I mean, and infuse jerk chicken mac and cheese. Like you can make an infused. To be honest, I made an infused spicy bruschetta, and I make it often, and it is delicious because it's the olive oil. You just infuse that, and it's absolutely stunning. So that's how I kind of learned to combine two, and people were excited about it. And then this company, like I have the 4 pillars. I have the infused dining experiences, which sadly I was not able to do much because COVID was doing COVID. So I had to put that on hold. But exciting news, I do have a dinner party guest event booked for end of next month. And it's going to be outside at a farm here on Duncan, BC, in the island here. And so it'll be really safe because it's going to be an outdoor event and stuff like that. But I also have a podcast. So I have a podcast called Faded Living and Friends. And the reason why I introduced that is to spark that conversation, to interview people that are in the industry or allies, and to show people that have a perception, I think, of cannabis consumers still to this day that, people are lazy, and then you realize like these people are running like massive businesses, like massive companies, corporations, or are just like amazing in their talent and really well respected and renowned in the industry, and to show people that we're just normal ass people that just happen to also love this plant as well. And then I educate, right? I try to educate through workshops, and because of COVID, I've kept them to virtual to kind of keep things really safe, but to just show people that you can be in control and you can get the tools from dispensaries and from what you have in your cupboard and create amazing dishes that you already create, but just elevate it a little bit.
With a twist.
Oh yeah, just a little bit of twist, a little touch. I like to teach people, I teach people how to cook with low THC, mainly because I love to smoke. So I'm smoking and eating. So I'm not trying to go heavy on the food part so that I can enjoy my smoke. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to be
That's
like
right.
a nice, well elevated, experience. So.
Yeah, but it also makes perfect sense because of what you said, even when you were talking about seniors who were, having trouble sleeping, or like, in the case of my mother, I don't want to introduce something to my mother because I got a funny story for you. So here's my one marijuana story for you of the day.
Bring it.
When I was in my late 20s, no, I would say early 30s, I had my mixed martial arts school in Toronto, and this is a funny story. It's a story that I tell all my friends, and they have a good laugh. A buddy of mine gave me at the time some oatmeal raisin cookies
Okay.
with a twist.
Ah,
So what happened was is that he gave me a few, like 5 or 6. So I didn't want to eat them all. So we kept them in the freezer. So the thing is I kept them in the freezer of my parents' place.
Oh, okay. Smart move. Okay.
Well, because I didn't want to keep it at the school.
That's a smarter move. Okay, that's
Right?
fair.
That was my business. I could keep this at home, but this was my business. I wasn't
Yeah.
gonna have it.
That's fair.
So anyway, one night, I guess my mom um, felt like she wanted something a little sweet. So she goes
Oh,
in the fridge and she goes, there's no cookies, there's nothing here. So she opens up the freezer and she finds these cookies.
oh,
Well, my 70-plus-year-old mother at the time decided that she was going to have a cup of coffee at night with these cookies. So my Italian mom, who's
oh,
never
oh.
had any connection to weed whatsoever, had just eaten 2 weed cookies.
He got litty lit. Okay, so what was her experience? Like how like
Well, she called me. And not only did she call me, but she kind of said in her little Italian accent, she says, she used to call me Crumel. Crew meaning teacher in Thai. So my name Crumel, even my mother called me it. She
oh,
says, Crumel, can I ask you a question? I go, sure, Mom. What's up? She goes, I ate the cookies in the in the freezer. So as soon as she told me, I started to burst out in tears. Tears. And I said, really, Ma? How do you feel? She goes, you asshole.
she knew, she
She
knew.
knew. She goes, I don't know. My stomach is turning. I feel
Yeah.
weird. So it
Okay,
clearly was way too much for her.
let me give you a tip. This is a tip. So there are ways, which is very different than alcohol. Like, when you get to a level, there are like not really a way to counteract feeling too drunk per se. Yeah, drink water, but not really. Or actually like have it release your body. You
That's
know what I
right.
mean?
That's
Whatever,
right.
right? But with cannabis, there are actually some things that you can do that have been effective for people. Number
Orange
one,
juice.
orange juice, citrus. That is very true. Any citruses, orange juice, lemon water, all of that kind of stuff. Two, CBD. CBD actually counteracts the effects of THC. So it will
Wow.
help to reduce it. So it's always good for people to have. Like, I consider, to be honest with you, as a consumer, I I consider CBD as like a vitamin. I don't see it as like a fun thing. I see it like more as like a vitamin to me. So
Right.
I have it in my house all the time. Most people don't, but just so that people know, that is something that can be helpful. Another thing actually is black pepper. So black pepper has a terpene called caryophyllene, and caryophyllene is known to kind of help with anxiety, help with like reducing like anxiousness, all this kind of stuff. And so if you take a whiff of black pepper or even chew on black peppercorns at the time that you're feeling uncomfortable, usually people say in about 20 minutes they start to feel better. And I've had friends that have literally texted me and was like, I feel so much better, thank you so much for it. Like, cannabis can be like, some people are, remember, all of our systems are so different, right? So some people can be so affected by it that it is really uncomfortable, that they do go to the emergency because they don't know what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, really and truly. And the fact that there are some things that you can try to help, like drinking water is always good. Sometimes even like removing layers and opening up windows, just getting that freshness can help. But the CBD, citrus, and black pepper have really been helpful to a lot of people. So at least now you have some tips, because I didn't know that back in the day. Like, I mean, I have my own, like,
We just do orange juice, Nicole. That's all.
I didn't even do, or I literally just wrote it out. I wrote it out like a starfish and just like wrote it out till the next day. But now I realize that there are things that can be done to kind of help. So, but yeah,
Absolutely. So let's go back because I'm sorry. I wanted to tell that story before I forgot it because I
yes.
thought it's a story that I tell my friends, and I think I even told Sandra Mio about it, and I think Sandra had a good laugh
I love it. I
because I think I told her in front of my mother, which was even better. But first of all, where did the name Faded Living come from? What's the
So
significance of that?
for sure. So faded is a term that the culture will use to see that you're smoking up. You know what I mean? Like, you're getting sort of lifted or
You get
elevated,
high.
getting high. And it's a great word that can easily be slipped in to the population, you know what I mean? Because a lot of people don't know that word unless you're like um, in the culture. So, and living is because I um, live and breathe a faded life. Like I really do. Like from using bath bombs to, eating it to smoking it to using topicals, lip balm, like hair products. Like I mean, they're literally just for the ladies and men who love nail polish. I just saw a cannabis company launch a nail polish that is like THC activated nail polish. I still have to understand, it's by Mood Ring. I still have to like figure out what that means. But my point of the matter is there's a lot of things on the market. I think there's even like makeup that's on the market. Like there's anything and everything that you can think of in just like what I call the square life, the non-cannabis world that you can find in the cannabis.
Well, and I think that we spoke about this, when we originally connected. That one of the interesting things, and this is where I was gonna ask you that question. So I've always come to understand that when there was this talk of legalizing marijuana, that I never understood why it was such a big deal to begin with. And part of the difficulty is that if you take a look at the plant, hemp can be turned into virtually
Oh,
anything.
everything.
You could have hemp
Everything.
paper made from hemp. You could have
You have a house.
clothes,
You have a house.
and then you said you could literally build a house with hemp.
You can literally, in fact, I'm in this, so I'm on the app Clubhouse. I used to really be active on it when Clubhouse was like doing the biggest of things, but now I kind of still go on that app every now and then, and that app is like
Had you.
yeah, absolutely, because I'm on there quite a bit. And the reason why I go on that app a lot is because there are a lot of cannabis rooms, especially from people in the States, right? So even though it's not federally legal there's a lot of states that have now become legal. So there's a huge community. And there is a hemp room that happens every Thursday. I usually get they'll text me it, and it's like all these people around the world that are big into hemp, and you just get to hear about all the advancements that are happening in the hemp world. So I feel sometimes that the reason why like cannabis was like frowned against, because cannabis does so many things, right? Like, they have like indica, sativa, all that kind of stuff, but really and truly, like, cannabis will do whatever you want it to do if you set the intention for it. So if I want to be creative and I smoke a joint, right after I'm done, I have the fuel to be creative because that's the intent that I wanted before I smoked. Sometimes it's because my back is hurting. So when I smoke, that's what it's attacking at a particular time. Sometimes it's because I want to have a good time. We're out, out and about with friends, whatever. So when I'm consuming, that's what it gives me. And that's why I'm like, I call it the cauliflower of the herbs, because not only does it come in so many forms, but it can do so many different things for you based on the intent.
Okay, so here's where I want to go with this. I spent almost 5 years totally engulfed into the world of metaphysics. And I just remember them saying that alcohol and drugs, especially hard drugs, the problem with them is not just the effects that it has on the physical body. And I'm getting metaphysical here, but they said that it leaves holes in the aura. And if you leave holes in the aura, well, then you leave the opportunity for negative energy to enter into your auric field. And I've always thought about this because I stopped for years. When I was involved, are you kidding me? And it's not that I minded. I didn't care. I don't care if you smoke. I've been smoking my whole life. I was 16 years old with Omar, with a big blunt, Omar back in jungle, But what's amazing is that I don't know. I mean, it's really tough to say whether or not it's true, but they did speak a lot about the apathy that comes with smoking, or at least with ingesting drugs.
Yeah.
So my experience later on in life was that when I smoked the next morning, oh, I was lethargic. I felt like, oh, I want to stay in bed or something. So, what do you say, or how could you speak to those effects, Nicole?
Yeah, so I think so now that there are so many um, types of strains that are on the market now, and that we have just access to, a lot of different strains have different properties and terpenes that are going to facilitate different things, right? Like, just like I mentioned, caryophyllene, which is a terpene, there's like humulene, which is a terpene, limonene, which is a terpene. These are all, terpenes are found in flowers and in fruits. They are what gives the smell and taste of those things, but they also have their own benefits, right? So when they're found in cannabis, sometimes that enhances what it's going to do for you. And also, if you're smoking without realizing that you can control the outcome, sometimes it will just do what it wants to do for you, right? Like, it is a different way to think when we were conditioned so differently. And I don't see the cannabis plant as a drug per se. I see it as the family of herbs, right? And so now that I'm learning that there are so many benefits in all the herbs, like, again, I don't understand why we just don't all know this, like why we shouldn't be just like having a little herb garden in everybody's apartment and whatever, right? To at least um, help us be healthier people, right? Um, so part of it is really understanding the intention and really understanding that you have the control. Like I said, if I want it to do something, it will do what I want it to do. But if I come in, when I mentioned like I have my interviews with people to kind of like break the stereotype of people being lazy and whatever. I always have to remind people, like, lazy people though do consume cannabis, just like lazy people drink alcohol. Lazy
Right.
people go to work. Lazy, you know what I mean? So like if you are already feeling lazy, sometimes the plant will give you more of it if you don't tell it to do something different. It is that, like, you can really get connected to the plant in that way. And I sometimes feel like that's one of the reasons why it was prohibited, because it awakens the mind. It awakens you to kind of really think for yourself. I feel like alcohol kind of can dumb down the mind a bit. And I'll give you a prime example of how I feel that is because years ago I was doing it was a birthday gathering of mine, and I had an infused brunch with friends of mine that are very heavy cannabis consumers. Okay, so it was about 9 of us. I was living in this apartment at the time on the fourth floor. So it was only 4-story building, so top of the building. And I had some friends on the balcony, and one of my friend's hat fell over the balcony, and it fell on like a landing on the second level, right? So my friends come in, and I'm sitting with some friends, and they're like, "Hey, do you have like a hanger?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." They're like, "Do you have some spraying?" I was like, "Yeah." Do you have a safety pin? I mean, yeah. And they fished that hat up with all their whatever they Jimmy MacGyvered it up,
Yeah.
got her hat back. And I said to them, if we were all 9 drinkers, in my personal opinion, there's no way that it would have easily and smoothly been like that. Because when you have only drinkers, because I've been around that situation, somebody knows more than somebody. So, you know what I mean? It would have just been so much more chaotic to be able to come together than it was us smoking. And people would think, oh, you guys are smoking. Like, how did anybody, you know what I mean? You probably like all like, passed out. Like, how would you even come up with that idea? And it's like, the more that you use it and the more that you get comfortable with it, the more that it understands you and you understand her. If that helps.
Wow. Well, it's certainly a refreshing perspective, Nicole, because, I mean, I've had such, again, an education that said, you have to be careful because of what it does to your aura and you're inviting negative things in. But what I love that you're talking about is something that I preach to my clients, to the people that I work with in my business as a clarity coach, accountability coach, is that Everything is about intention.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to get clients to do is to say, okay, so the reason why a vision board is a powerful tool is because this allows you to focus your energy, the intention, on one piece of the pizza slice or one piece of the pizza pie. So that if I focus on one thing, what happens is that my energy has its intention to focus on loving relationship, to
Excellent.
focus on, career, financial, social, health and wellness. But it gives my client the opportunity to say, let me focus on one thing.
Absolutely.
And I love that you use the word intention, because to me, that's the word that people really need to learn more about.
Yes, absolutely. Because you have control, everybody. Like you literally have control. Like even just with just in life, like even down to my business. So being a cannabis entrepreneur is not for the weak. Period. I'm going to say this right now because even though it's legal in this country, we as cannabis entrepreneurs face a lot of barriers that other industries don't face. First one, getting a bank account. It took me, so I registered the business as a corporation in January of 2021, but I didn't get a bank account officially until like March of 2021. And because the big banks will say no, 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 and I was able to get one with the credit union that supports. My credit union actually makes rolling papers, like branded rolling papers. Community savings, big ups to you in Vancouver. Like, but for most part, the big banks won't, because why? It's not federally legal. And because the big banks do a lot of business with the states, we all have access to being able to open up a US account in our Canadian big banks. And
Yep.
so they don't allow for it at all, period. And if they do, they will charge you an astronomical amount of money to just apply, and that's non-refundable. Like, so BMO was saying, like, sometimes some people were paying like 5,000 to 7,500 just to apply for a business bank account, and they could say no and not give you your money back. And I'm like, what? This is so crazy. So the
They
fact
need to smoke more joints so they
yeah,
can relax.
absolutely. But I love the fact that I do love the plant. It's all great, but there is like a lot of barriers getting insurance. Insurance companies don't really want to touch anything because they feel like, it's like all this crazy liability. But um, after a huge cannabis event and after a huge like beer garden event or whatever, or like huge concert where it's more liquor kind of heavy, the cleanup and the aftermath is two different things, right? Nobody wants to talk about the fact that there's not much to do after a cannabis event. You know what I mean? But I've worked events. Like doing event with liquor is a lot to deal with in the aftermath, right? Like sometimes you have to deal with fights in between. Sometimes, your washroom is like a hot mess. You know what I mean? Like, people really get clumsy and stuff like that, and spilling and all of those things and fights and yada, yada, yada. And that's not really the vibe that you get at a
At a
cannabis.
cannabis event.
It's not. So
Everybody's friendly and
they
hugging each other.
are, they are, they're chill. Like, and I mean, and there's still drama in the cannabis world. I'm not trying to say that we're all like, singing kumbaya, but I mean, it's not what you see in what, in some of the other events that are liquor heavy that I've experienced myself firsthand.
Agreed, agreed,
Yeah,
of course. I
so
mean, listen, this is something that I've been saying for years. We used to joke when we were smoking,
yeah.
as we were high, going, if everybody smoked a joint in the world would be a better place. There
Hey,
wouldn't be any more wars. There wouldn't be any more,
hey.
right?
You know what I say on my thing every single time? If everybody had a little touch of THC, the vibrational level of this planet would be amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
well,
Just a
I
touch.
wonder what it would do for the vibration, Like, I really am curious. I wonder whether or not the people that were telling this were true, or whether or not this was another scare tactic.
Yeah, yeah,
Because at the end of the day, all that again, all that is important to me is the idea of intention.
Yeah, totally
And
at the end of
and
it.
I love that you say that, it almost becomes a ceremony. That's
Yeah.
why the Native
Yes.
Canadians and the Native
Yes.
Americans, they have they
Yes.
have ceremony with
That's the
everything.
thing. Absolutely. It becomes that. And let's not forget, we have the ability to grow our own too. You as Canadians can grow like 4 plants in your space. It's like, that you can't, people can't see it from blah, 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 blah. But you have the ability to actually grow your own medicine,
Right.
actually your own plant, and put your own love and intention into it, and not even have to deal with anybody else's hands and all of those things, right? Like, I mean, I'm staying in this beautiful place, my friend's place, and she's got this gorgeous like cannabis plant just by her front door, looking like a beautiful girl. And I'm like, yes, I love that. And the thing, like, the beauty of the plant too is uh, like the leaves of them. I actually juice them. So I will like freeze like I've grown my own plants before, and I will like cut off the families and freeze them, and then put them in like a smoothie later, because they don't make you high, but it's rich in minerals, like so much vitamins and all sorts of things. Like the whole plant itself is amazing, not just the fun part, right? Like you can use the stalks for things. People steep it for teas. Like it's not all just getting high. Although I like that part of it too. Like I'm not afraid to get high. I think people are afraid to expand, right? Like they're afraid to like they feel that they're not being in control if they get high, but you can be so in control when you're high. You really, really can. It's just that, that's why I always just introduce just a little bit until you have it work with your body and flow through your body, and then you'll increase when you need it. Sometimes you don't ever need to increase. Like having low doses is a person's sweet spot, right? And for me, sometimes I like to go high for certain things and then keep it low and copacetic for other things, right? But the beauty is that I have that control, right? Which is
Yeah. And you're setting the intention.
always setting the intention.
This has been fascinating, Necole. I
Yay!
can't believe it. I really have this real sense of gratitude for you for coming and
Aw,
sharing this experience with all of us, because it's something that's got to get out there, that people need to understand.
yeah.
Because I was having this conversation last night with one of the guys in my wolf pack, and I'm coming up with a program where I want to take business leaders and
Mm,
I want to give them an opportunity to get fight fit.
nice.
So I have a unique set of skills, Necole, where I could take you, and if you spent 4 days a week with me for 3 months, I
Yes.
I bet you that I could get you in fight fit shape.
Ah,
What will that do for you? Well, it will provide you with a level of self confidence that you've never experienced before.
mm,
It will provide you with this clarity, this mental clarity, because you're moving the body in such a way and you're pushing it to the limits. And I kind of use that as an analogy. You've provided with this analogy of getting the brain to expand when you are feeling the effects of the THC or the CBD, whatever it is,
yeah.
and I'm giving that from a physical standpoint. You
Yes.
know, people have called it the runner's high. If you ever
Yes.
run a marathon, or
Yes. Yes.
when you're hitting the pads and you've got your coaches in front and you're smashing and you're having all this fun and you're exuding this energy.
Yes.
There's a high that comes with that.
Absolutely.
And so I'm loving this because I really do resonate. And I'll tell you, for all my friends out there, Josh and Sandra Mio, you know what I did last night? I've been a vegetarian for a lot of years now. I guess almost 6,
Okay.
maybe even 7. I think this year's 7. But I have some health concerns.
Mm,
And I went to an endocrinologist to
okay.
get some stuff looked at. So, you know what I did yesterday? I did something that I haven't done in 7 years. I went to the grocery store and I bought a very expensive steak.
Hey, you see how I smiled instantly? Hey, yes, get that
And
iron.
and I went and I cooked this steak with a little bit of olive oil, a little salt and pepper. I threw it on the barbecue, and I have to tell you, I feel good today.
Yes. This is
I
my
feel
thing
good
on the
today.
meat. So I haven't I went through a really small stint of uh I wouldn't say vegetarian, but just saying that I ate vegetables for like let's say 6, 7 months. And the reason why I did that is because I wanted to make the vegetable the star of the dish because I feel like when I was too meat heavy, I was always making the vegetable like a side piece kind of thing. And so I wanted to kind of like,
Yeah, yeah.
like focus on the vegetable. But even still, I do like to have some meat in my diet. And I realized that the problem, at least I can only speak for me, the problem with my whole consumption and whatever was the idea that I thought I had to have so much meat all the time, right? And the fact that, like, even with the Canada Food Guide, all those things back when I was a kid, like meat was a lot of those, areas that we were supposed to have meat in the day. And I think that if we were conditioned to realize that if you just have anything in moderation, we wouldn't have an industry of like animals being raised in the way that they are because of this demand of everybody needing this. We wouldn't have it, right? Because there's a lot of indigenous communities that most of their diet is just meat, right? Like people are living in Inuit and they're going to go
Of
hunting.
course.
That's their diet, right? Like,
Correct. Yeah,
well,
proteins and fats, of
yeah,
course.
like why am I better than that person? I just feel like everything in moderation. So I just don't eat it every day,
Yeah.
and you just kind of eat it, once in a while. And I think that it's just with everything, right? Even just the way that I consume, like I don't consume heavily because I still have lots of things to do, and also, I mean, it's not cheap, right? I'm not growing all my stuff, right? So I'm not like, sitting and smoking all day long, but it's just everything in moderation. I've taught my kids that too, right? Like, and just like, especially when they were teens and whatever, it's like, you're going to try a lot of things. But a lot of people don't tell you that if you're better off if you go in moderation than going hard on one thing every time,
Of course.
you
Of
know?
course. Of course.
Yeah.
Well, as we get close to the end, Nicole, of the show, can you tell us a little bit about like what's coming up for you? Like what's the mission? What's the goal with this?
Okay, a few things. So, right away, there are some things that are happening for me. Next week is our Christmas for the community. So 420 is happening next week. So I am going to be in Kelowna, BC for the BC Craft Summit. So it is a celebration amongst BC craft growers and cannabis entrepreneurs, and it's a 3-day situation. And I'm going to be doing some cooking demos, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be speaking at a panel at a conference in Victoria in June. I am doing an infused dining experience at High Point Ranch in Duncan, BC. So we're offering a camping experience as well as a dinner only experience. And I'm going to be doing a 5-course meal.
Oh
And
my God.
I know it's crazy. I'm going to Oklahoma next month to do some fun things out there. But the most important thing that I am trying to manifest for this business is I would like to create an offering for the cannabis community, like the diehards specifically. And I want to expand into the cannabis tourism industry by offering a cannabis Airbnb. In this case, it will be a mobile bowler trailer. I want to get that renovated, get one up renovated, and then can book it and be in, travel comfortably and consume. It will be outfitted with all of the cannabis accessories and all renovated and all of the things. So, and that will be the favor that I am hoping to release.
Wow, what an idea.
Yeah.
Good for you, girl. Well,
Thank you.
listen, I'm going to tell you this that I'm sure that this show is going to get out there, and it will be on Monday. It'll be on YouTube, and you'll find it directly after on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Clarity Coach Mel. But this is super awesome. This has been so exciting, Necole, to have you and to share your story. Sandra Mia writes, "Thank you for opening up and sharing your
You're
story.
welcome. You're
You are
welcome.
de- You are definitely an inspiration to others. When you live your life with intention, you go out into the world and make a difference by being the difference. You rock, girl. I'm proud of you. Sending my love. I will sure to come out to visit.
Awesome.
Well, I
Awesome.
have one request. I have a request, Nicole. I
Yes.
would like to know that is there, is there a place here in Ottawa that you would recommend that has all of these variety of products in one of these shops?
Ooh.
But I would love for you to that's my ask, and
I will have some one for you soon. I don't know it off by heart, but I'm gonna message you so that you can include it in the note because there is one, a lovely spot, and I interviewed their manager on my podcast in season one. So yes, I'm going to get you the name.
perfect. I would love the information for
Yeah.
that. But I just want to say thank you, Nicole, for really shining your light here with all of
Oh,
us.
thank you. Thank you for
Thank
having
you,
me.
thank you for entrusting us with with your story about your the challenges and how you turned this challenge into something that will forever make your life great. As I said, finding your greatest strength in the moments of your greatest weakness. So thank you so much. Here's what I'm going to do, Nicole. I'm going to put you backstage just so that I can give my final thoughts
Excellent.
for the show. And again, I'm really grateful for you. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun.
You're awesome.
Thank you.
Here we go. I wish we could play that song now for real. That I Want to Get High So High song, because it would be a perfect ending to this episode of the Coffee and Biscotti show. Grateful to Nicole. I hope you felt something with that. Like I have to say, I don't know. I know that Josh, you were talking that the audio was a bit off, but I heard things great. I hope that everybody could hear things great. This was really a great show. I could just feel her energy and feel the passion that she has for herbs, including the cannabis plant and the marijuana plant, because I just think that there's something there. It's a marvel to me as to why this is only coming now, that we can talk about marijuana being used for medicinal purposes, but the hemp plant being, the material, the fiber of hemp can be used to create so many things, and it grows wild. This is something that should be talked about. And of course, I understand that part of the reason why nobody's done any research with this is because big companies would lose their shirt. What would happen to the lumber company if you could build with a lot more things with hemp? And I know that there's always some sort of political agenda when it comes to this stuff, but I hope that at some point we could get past this. And it was a wonderful opportunity to hear someone's story about marijuana, and not just the use of getting high, but really using it for medicinal purposes. So thank you to Necole for joining us. Next week on the Coffee and Biscotti show, we go to another healer. His name is Steve Morado. He's just on the Quebec side here, and he is a massage therapist, what I call with a twist. He does a lot of healing. He does some very interesting things. And I'll tell you that if you looked at him, you would never think that he's this kind of intuitive healer. He's buff, really jacked, all deezed up, super shape. And I think he just celebrated his 50th birthday. But we have him on the show next week. So make sure to leave some time for us. The coffee from all of us here at the Coffee and Biscotti Show. Thank you so much. Thank you once again to Josh, Poutine Nation, for always being here. Sending much love to our girl Franny. And of course, the woman who made this show possible today, Sandra Mio. Ti amo tanto. Thank you, Sandra, for the wonderful guest today, the introduction to the wonderful guest today. Today we are off to see Guten Morgen, DJ, who I believe is based in Germany, to say hello. Do say hello, gang. Absolutely. So that's where we're raiding to. We're off to see Guten Morgen, DJ from Germany. So stay tuned. Stay with us as we raid to that station, that channel. From me to your homes and your families, have yourself a very safe and happy Easter if you celebrate. And I look forward to seeing you all next week on the Coffee and Biscotti Show. Much love, everybody. This is me signing off. Peace out. Josh, rate us away.